a Full and Bloom interview with producer-engineer Randy Burns. Inside the album, Chris Poland returned to Metalopolis. Be sure to listen to our Megadeth Peace Sells interview with Randy at fullandbloom.com. Click the link in the description. Where did you record Chris Poland's return to Metalopolis?
Well, that's a interesting thing. I was just looking it up. The first studio, Image Studios, belonged to this guy named Charlie, who was a producer, and he was famous for doing some David Bowie albums, Fame in particular. Normally, I would go to Music Grinder and other small studios to do overdubs, and then go back to Grinder to mix. But I don't remember who had it locked out or what the deal was, but we couldn't get in there for months and months. So we had to find other places to record. But there was Image Studios, and then listed on the record is also American Studios. But I remember distinctly that we mixed it at a place called Smoke Tree, which is out in the valley. And Smoke Tree, when we went in there, I remember it was a really vivid memory that they said that the artist that was in right before us was Madonna mixing Like a Prayer.
Wow.
So, yeah. So, I really remember that place. I really remember that name, but I looked it up. It's not on the record. So who knows? I think I'm going to be talking to Chris here coming up in the next week or so. I'm going to ask him if he remembers that.
And so you don't remember going to American?
Well, we worked at a couple of studios. The main one I remember was Charlie's, and I believe that one was Image. It could be is that American Studios is actually Smoke Tree. They just changed their name or something, and it was Smoke Tree at the time, but now it's American, and that's why the credits read that way. But I remember Charlie's place, and I remember Smoke Tree for the mixing.
Do you recall what kind of board they had at Image?
I think it was MCI gear again, which was typical of like a lot of the small studios. I remember a couple of things about that session. We were doing overdubs there, and while we were there, I met Chris Lord-Alge, who was mixing the single in there, and we stood out in the parking lot and talked. And Guns N' Roses were doing overdubs there at the same time. We're working in there, so it was an interesting place to be, going in and out of the kitchen and so forth. There was some interesting characters there.
Anything stand out from your conversations with Chris?
Chris Lord-Alge?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I was telling him that I was thinking about getting married and we were going to have kids, and I didn't want to have kids in L.A., and he suggested I move to Nashville, which is where he lived. He said he just flies to New York and L.A. to do work, and he does some work in Nashville, but he moved his family to Nashville, and that was a great place, and that's what he recommended. So that was the conversation there. We both smoked, so we were outside smoking, which is how I bumped into him.
Oh, nice. The benefits of smoking.
Yeah. He was a very interesting guy, very colorful guy, very nice.
How was it working with Chris Poland in comparison to Peace Sells?
Oh, well, it was great. Chris and I, we worked really well together. He's really, easy to work with and cooperative. I think there was a little bit of tension. I think I frustrated him a number of times where I was pushing him on the solos to do stuff, and he would play stuff, and he would say, "There's nothing wrong with that solo. It's a fine solo." And I'd say, yeah, okay, we'll keep that one. Let's go over here and try again. He would get a little frustrated with me at times, but overall, it was a great experience, and we got along really well, and we had a good time doing it. It was a really, it was a fun record to make. There was only the three of us. It was Chris, his brother, and myself, and they did all the basic tracks, all the drum tracks, with just Chris playing guitar and his brother playing drums, and then we went back and he overdubbed the bass and then started in with all the overdubbed guitar parts. Yeah, so most of the record was just me and Chris in the control room. He was using, he had a rack then with a rack-mounted Mesa Boogie. I don't remember what the power amps were, but he had some kind of power amps, and then we had the 412s in the other room mic'd up. Just me and him in the control room working all day. And it was very smooth. It was very easy, and I really, enjoyed making that record. Chris is such an extraordinary artist, and that record, it's not just like a metal record. There's fusion elements, and he's playing this really remarkable stuff. His compositions are unique,
Brilliant.
and his solo work is so lyrical and melodic and expressive. There's very little that I can compare with. He's just not like a typical player at all. He's really a unique and extraordinary artist. The only experience that comes close is I got the opportunity to work with Allan Holdsworth once.
Wow.
It was on a Jean-Luc Ponty album, and Jean-Luc Ponty had Holdsworth come in to play the guitars. And one day they were doing solos, and he was kind of choking on this one solo, and everybody else left the room. I was the assistant engineer. I was running the tape machine. So they all left and just left me and Allan in there. And I'm running the tape machine. He's playing solos. Just amazing to be present for some of that amazing stuff.
I bet. What year was that?
Oh, let's see. It would have been the late 80s. Maybe I was assistant engineer at Music Grinder. So 82, 83. The album was called Individual Choice. And the tune is In Spite of All. And Gary Scardina was the first engineer. He was the studio owner. And Jean-Luc Ponty was the producer. So, it would have been early 80s.
And so what, he was just trying to nail the solo when you're in there alone with him?
Yeah, he was kind of choking. So all the guys, everybody left so he could be alone. And eventually he took a break and drank a few beers. And he was trying not to use his bar because all the rock guys were stealing his bar licks, so he was trying to go somewhere else. And anyway, he ended up getting some Bass Ale and drinking a few of those, and then whipped out the bar and did it in one take. It was a remarkable recording session. It was a really special day.
How long does Return to Metalopolis take to record?
I think it took us about a month altogether, but just a few days to do the drums, 3 or 4 days to do the drums, and then a few days to mix. And then we spent quite a few days doing overdubs and sort of, assembling these songs. There's a lot of guitar tracks on those songs. He has, usually has a couple of rhythm guitars and 1 or 2 melody guitars, and then there's solos, and then other little bit parts where he puts in acoustics and clean guitars and do volume pedal things. He does all kinds of stuff.
You're recording to tape on this, right?
That was tape back then.
I'm assuming since you're a producer on that, you're aware of the budget for that record?
Yeah, I don't remember what it was exactly, but I'm going to guess it's around 15, 20, something like that. It was not enormous. We worked very quickly and efficiently. And I do remember, the main thing I remember was I was really disappointed I couldn't do it at Grinder. And there was just no way. We needed to do the record, and we were going to have to wait so long to get in there. Somebody had locked the place out for months, so we just couldn't do it. So, yeah, I really wish I could have done it in my favorite place, which was Music Grinder.
You guys did pre-production, right?
No, not really. It was all Chris. It was all in his head. He went in with his brother. We did a little bit. He went in, but I didn't have that much of a role in it. He went in with his brother and worked through all the tunes with his brother, and then the rest of it was just in his head. He came in and just played the stuff. Chris was really, he had the whole thing mapped out. He knew exactly what he wanted to do. I just helped him assemble the songs with the parts.
Regarding the solos, are you piecing those together, or are they one continuous take?
I don't think there are any solos where we took half of one and half of another one. I mean, that's possible. We could have done that. It was a really long time ago, so it's not really fresh in my memory. But most of them are a single take from the beginning to the end. It's one, and you can tell they're good solos. There's a beginning, there's a middle, there's an end, there's a high point. He's very good. The composition is just extraordinary.
I was reading somewhere where he said that album was before he really became obsessed with tone, although and you read some of the reviews, and a lot of people applaud that tone that's on that album. What did you think of his guitar tone?
Well, it's the same as, in a way, it's the same as Allan Holdsworth. The tone is, the way they touch the guitar, the feel in the left and right hands, and how they attack and squeeze this particular lyrical tone out of the guitar. And, Holdsworth, his stuff sounds like he's playing a saxophone or something. And Chris has a completely different but really beautiful lyrical melodic thing. He does a lot of little slow parts where he's hanging on notes for a long time and really making them sing. And Chris has some sort of special techniques that he uses just in the middle of a line, sort of hit a harmonic so that he's playing this melody, and then the last two notes are just harmonics, but you don't really realize it. It's not obvious what he's doing. But he certainly had a style of playing and a way of putting solos together, and his tone was definitely part of it. Now, I know later he did get obsessed with equipment and creating a more unique sound or a more specific sound, but he was very good at getting a great tone out of the guitar at that time.
Are you guys just miking up the amps? Did you incorporate the Rockman again?
No, I don't think we did any Rockman stuff. That Mesa Boogie head may have had a direct out that we might have mixed in, so we maybe use a little bit of the direct, but mostly it was the speakers, close mic, and I'm pretty sure they were 412 cabinets. I think we had Marshalls and Mesa Boogies. I think he used that Mesa Boogie rack-mounted head for just about everything, and then he would dial it up differently depending on what we were doing on any particular day. It's a lot of different sounds on the record, a lot of different guitar sounds.
How did you get those acoustic? The acoustic sounds were beautiful. Do you recall anything about what you used or what he played on, or anything about recording the acoustic guitars?
No, it would have been the typical stuff. I think we would use small condenser mics, maybe use two of them. It sounds great because he plays great. He makes that sound. I've done a lot of recording and spent years and years and years trying to figure out how to get sounds. And the truth is what you do is you go find yourself some great players, and you just stick a microphone near them, and it's going to sound great. There's not a lot of magic to it. The magic comes and it's in their hands. They make that great sound, and all you have to do is catch it. You can spend a week trying to get a sound from a mediocre player. There's nothing you can do. It just doesn't sound good because they don't play good.
Right.
And it's just the opposite with guys like Chris.
So I'm curious, you were saying that Chris would get a little frustrated when you would push him to do another take, but I'm just wondering, when you would push him like that and he would do another take, would it be something better? And did you end up using those takes?
Oh, yeah. Well, it took us, sometimes I would make him play it a number of times when he thought we already had something that was fine, and I would try to get him to play some more, and he would do it. But
he would beat the take
I frustrated him. What?
He would beat the take, the original take?
Yeah, he would beat it. And I think the performances that we got are absolutely brilliant. Of all the records I've done, that is my personal favorite record. I don't think I've done anything that's, you can't really compare it and say this is better than that. It doesn't work like that. But in terms of what I like and what I want to listen to, I like listening to that more than any other record I've ever made.
And so how do you know when you get the right take? Do you go by gut feeling, or what are you going by?
Sure. It's art when it invokes some sort of a feeling. His solos, they invoke some sort of a feeling, some sort of a response, and that's what it's about. It's art. So yeah, it's the one with the emotional content. It's the one with the most feeling, the one that moves you a little bit.
Are there any favorite moments from those sessions?
Well, sure. The solos. I think probably my favorite is the one in Alexandria, and then there's Fall of Babylon, and of course the title track, Return to Metalopolis. All of those have just incredible solos. They are so good, and I'm really, really pleased with that. And I think that's like some of the stuff on the album that makes it just such a great album. I'm hoping it does more this time. The record was released on on Enigma, and then shortly thereafter, Enigma went out of business.
Right.
So he kind of lost his champion, and, it's typical A&R story where there's nobody to promote your record at the record company, or in this case, there's no record company, there's no one to sell the record. So I'm hoping it does better this time on the new re-release on Combat.
Right, the 30th anniversary release.
Yep.
Were you involved in that at all?
Tom Hazard called me up and interviewed me and asked me about. Anyway, he interviewed me to get some liner notes. So, I had a couple of long conversations with Tom about the record.
And what do you think about it? They remastered it, correct?
They did. It sounds great.
They looked like it sounded like they made it a little fatter on the low end.
Yep. I just did a mix here at my house in my new studio in my garage, in the box, for Century Media, for one of Century Media's bands. And I'm planning on doing a bunch more of that. So one of the things I'm looking forward to, if possible, is getting to remix some of those records I did in the 80s. Any of the ones where they took a 2-inch and they transferred it to digital, if they have digital files of those tracks, I would definitely like to get a shot at remixing some of that stuff.
How did your first project go out of your studio?
It went great. I'm real happy with it. The A&R guy really likes it, and the band likes it. So it was good.
Has your approach changed any from back in the day to now when it comes to mixing?
Oh yeah. Back in the day, the mixing really wasn't the art that it is today, or it was just starting to be. I think a lot of people credit Bob Clearmouth of developing all these modern mixing techniques that people use these days. But our approach was to record everything really well, so that all you had to do was push the faders up and it sounded good. We didn't put anything on the tape that didn't sound great. And mixing wasn't creating a sound from these raw tracks. The sound was already there. All you had to do was get the sound up, put some reverb on some things, and work on levels. We did it from the beginning. We did the work at the beginning when we laid down the tracks. And the mixing wasn't because of the way we did the budgets. We didn't have a lot of time to mix. We had to go in and do it quickly. So we found that was the best recipe, is just record everything right, make it really good going down, and then when you go to mix, it wasn't hard. We already had everything on there that we needed. We weren't creating a lot of the sound in the mix. So now, working with the digital tools and working on the computer, it's very different. You can really change the sound quite a bit. You have a lot more power with in the digital domain than we get in the analog domain. We can really reshape this stuff in dramatic ways, and that provides a platform for being really, being more creative. So it's a whole different animal now.
What are some of your favorite plugins nowadays?
I use a lot of Wave stuff. I like their F6 dynamic EQ. I like some of the CLA stuff. His compressors, I think, sound better than most. I have the UA audio interface and Apollo, and it comes with some really nice. They have really nice plugins. So their compressors are very nice sounding. The Fairchild and their 1176 and their LA2A all sound really nice. So those are a few that kind of go-to things.
Regarding the drums on Return to Metalopolis, Mark is an incredible player, and really the two of them, it's just they're so tight together. It's almost comes off like a freaking drum machine. How did you do? I mean, that's him playing through the whole thing, right?
That's him playing through the whole thing. Those are real drums. There are no samples. It's all take from beginning to end. There's nothing edited. And it didn't take him long. Like I said, we spent I'm gonna guess 3 days to do the drums for all of that. He just tore it up. He just absolutely tore it up. He was really, really good.
Any moments any brilliant moments that stand out that we hadn't talked about, or anything that you would want to change, anything like that?
Yeah, if I could change stuff, I would change the bass. I don't like the way the bass guitar sounds at all. And we were trying to do something, I remember talking about it a little bit, and whatever we did, now I don't like it. And again, I would like to get another crack at that. I would really love, with all the tools that I have now in the digital domain, to remix that record. It would just be a blast. So I'm going to look into that. I don't know if they have, if they digitized the 2-inch, but I imagine they did. So hopefully I'll get the opportunity to do that and redo it in the digital world.
Anything else? Any closing comments?
No.
Okay.
I think it was a great session, and lots of just me and Chris in the control room with him playing the guitar, and me sitting there and listening to him do this amazing stuff and capturing it. And it was a great experience. And again, of all the things I've ever recorded, it's my favorite thing to listen to.